let's talk about Chainsaw Man. No, not that guy. Nope, not that guy either. There we go. Now that's Chainsaw Man. His chainsaw go brrrr. Now if you're an anime fan and you've never heard of Chainsaw Man, I only have one thing to say to you.
What?
Chainsaw Man is arguably the biggest seasonal anime of fall 2022, and the primary reason why flannel sales have taken off. So Chainsaw Man is popular. Big deal. What I want to know, Weeaboof, is does it live up to its hype? To answer your question, let me repeat myself. Chainsaw go brrrr. Just like plaid is always a great pattern choice, Chainsaw Man deserves every bit of its praise. And it's not just because it's fall 2022's featured shonen. Chainsaw Man is good on its own accord. In fact, I'm willing to bet you my hard hat that the general anime community would agree with this claim. But Chainsaw Man's reputation definitely outweighs something that is simply good. I would go even as far as calling it special. And the reason being in the brilliant way in which Chainsaw Man establishes itself as a relatively dualistic series. In other words, Chainsaw Man's success is based on its nature of adhering to the shonen staples everyone loves, while simultaneously presenting a framework of endless possibilities. In order to fully elaborate on this video's assertion, I need to break something down. So without further ado, I present to you Weeaboof's vocabulary word of the day. Today's vocabulary word, dualism. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia, the idea of dualism is that, for some particular domain, there are two fundamental kinds or categories of things or principles. Thank you, weeps, for your time. Now back to the video. So now you are probably thinking one of three things. 1, you have no idea what I'm talking about and have realized I'm terrible at accents. 2, you're asking yourself if I really just inserted cliché philosophical notions into an anime analysis video. Or 3, which is the only one I'm actually going to address. How exactly does Chainsaw Man reflect dualism? The most famous example of dualistic notions would likely be good and evil, as opposed to just one moral concept. And after this video, I am hoping that Chainsaw Man's foundation will be the second most famous dualistic notion. But I'll settle for like the 8th most famous. Weeaboo, just shut up already and please actually start talking about Chainsaw Man before people click off this video. For the sake of simplifying this essay's argument, I am going to label Chainsaw Man's opposing dualistic ideas as shonen and cosmic. For shonen, just think Goku. They're essentially synonymous. And by cosmic, I mean inconceivably vast. So let's start with a dualistic essence that is more clear-cut. Chainsaw Man checks all boxes for what is considered peak shonen, with a dummy thick red Sharpie too, not some half-sharpened golf pencil. At its core, Chainsaw Man is in fact a series focused on a lead male character who fights well and encompasses an ability to enhance his strength. However, it just takes one pull of a cord to make the targeted cringe teenage boy demographic go from
yes sir
to who needs big muscles in martial arts when you can watch literal chainsaws emerge from someone's face and arms? Now this is not to say that shonen titles cannot be creative, but tropes and formulaic elements can only take you so far before meeting the notorious shonen axe. And I'd choose a chainsaw over an axe any day. To further assess what I labeled the cosmic side of Chainsaw Man, we need look no further than the title, Chainsaw Man. There is no room for interpretation, the title is absolutely literal. And yet, this simple structure is how I'm able to categorize Chainsaw Man as cosmic in the first place. So now let's hone in on this simple structure itself. So we know the show is about a chainsaw man, but what exactly is a chainsaw man? In the Chainsaw Man universe, there are beings known as devils. Every devil corresponds with some sort of singular notion. Given that a chainsaw is evidently a concept, there can be, and is, a chainsaw devil. Now insert our main protagonist, Denji. If you haven't seen the first episode of Chainsaw Man, I recommend pausing this video, watching it, and then coming right back. That is, unless you are one of those freaks of nature who likes having things spoiled for them. Anywho, Denji essentially finds himself on his deathbed when the Chainsaw Devil sacrifices himself to act as Denji's new heart, ultimately saving his life, thus creating Chainsaw Man. However, Denji is actually 16 when this happens, but I don't think the title Chainsaw Teenager would have sold as well. It's like my great-grandma always said, if your man is slightly lacking when it comes to a brain, at least make sure he's rocking that chain. Now let this information sink in for a little. I was not exploring Chainsaw Man's identity to give you a brief character synopsis of Denji, but rather present to you how Chainsaw Man functions as a series. Let's take it from the top. Please pay close attention. In Chainsaw Man, the devils are antagonists. Antagonists are what drive the action. Without action, there is no plot, in other words, no story. Each devil is based on a concept, and there is nothing more intrinsic than a concept, which leads me to my primary point. There is nothing that Chainsaw Man can't do. The series has been strategically set up in such a way that it will never run out of ideas, because the ideas stem directly from ideas themselves. Whew. Now that's a prosperous blueprint if I've ever seen one. Still, setting oneself up for success and putting it into practice are entirely different things. Even though Chainsaw Man's model centers around ideas, ideas are not always good. It is up to the artist to make them good. To solidify Chainsaw Man's endless potential, let's look at some of the series examples. Obviously, we're going to start with Denji, aka Chainsaw Man. Now I know Hollywood has already somewhat weaponized the chainsaw, but a chainsaw is literally just an instrument for cutting wood. Fujimoto, the author of Chainsaw Man, took this simple and straightforward tool and made it the focal point of his series. The purpose of the chainsaw went from warming up bodies with a fire pit to filling up pits with bodies in a straight fire fashion. But it doesn't just stop there. Why don't we take a look at the first enemy devil revealed in the series? It's dangerous. It's ruthless. It's bright red. It's juicy. It's a tomato. Sorry, that can't be right. What I meant to say was tomato. It's clear the hype surrounding tomatoes needs no introduction. Bob the Tomato from VeggieTales has been a hype lord since 1993. But other than this rare outlier, the first idea we see Denji slay is none other than a tomato. Something you put on a sandwich. Arguably everyone's least favorite fruit. You throw them at comedians that are not funny. It is not something labeled as the ideal opponent. But that's the point. Not only does Chainsaw Man have the option of making a tomato an adversary, it does it well. You may have heard the phrase, anyone can do anything, but not anyone can make anything hype. If you're still not convinced, let's highlight some more devils. Take the Bat Devil. I guess you can say bats are cool, but I mean, what do? Hang upside down? There is always Batman, but I can't understand a word he says. But Chainsaw Man takes the idea of a bat and uses it to not only create development for one of the most beloved characters of the series, but also fashion a fantastic and weightful battle. Consider the Fish Devil. While most see fish as critters that swim in the sea and occasionally lose their sons, Chainsaw Man sees a fish as an opposition in building a character's backstory. And the Fox Devil adds a whole new meaning to the phrase, what does the fox say? Principally speaking, Chainsaw Man has anything and everything at its disposal, but it doesn't just simply burn through its resources, it adds value to even the most mundane conceptions. Not only does using obscure ideas as the basis of a work cause the series to be fresh and unique, but it also enhances the anticipation for the more substantial antagonists. A dominant one being the Gun Devil. Now that seems like a more fitting concept for a devil. Just take a second to think about this. If a series is able to deliver exciting conflict with notions like tomatoes, bats, and fish, just imagine the kind of antagonism the series can create with elements that are actually rooted in conflict. And for the sake of not going off track concerning this video's thesis and to not spoil anything, I'll just leave that up to the imagination. And what makes Chainsaw Man's construct so inventive is that it does not even try to hide the fact that it truly can do whatever it wants. What better way to demonstrate endless possibilities than presenting an actual eternity devil? If innate concepts were not enough for source material, why not combine devils and humans to make hybrids? Move aside, Dragon Ball, there's a new fusion series in town. And all of this is amplified when you mix in the series' calamitous tone that creates a premonition that no character is safe from abruptly meeting a Mortal Kombat fatality. I would even be willing to go as far as to argue that this is one of the driving forces the staff behind the anime chose to give Chainsaw Man a different ending theme for each episode. Whether the decision was subconscious or not, it further radiates all of the different embodiments within Chainsaw Man and the series' unbounded aptitude. Overall, I could keep going on and on about Chainsaw Man's capabilities, but given that these capabilities are not bound by limits, I guess it's ultimately up to me to decide when to end this video, or else it would go on, well, forever. So to conclude, Chainsaw Man is a series that quite literally has an infinite amount of directions it could take, and the series' path along this creative infinity has been nothing short of extraordinary. With that being said, let me end this video with my catchphrase that I will continue to say endlessly. Remember everyone, you can't be a weeb without saying oof, or with regards to Chainsaw Man, without saying woof. Yeah, I just said that. Later.